Hi, I'm Matt and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about 2025 releases that I'm excited for in the first half of the year. I'm hoping to add some more books to your TBR. I'm hoping to give you some books that you maybe haven't heard of yet. These aren't super genre specific. I'm mostly interested in fantasy and horror. It's not every book that's coming out in the first half of 2025 by any means, but it's all the ones that I'm interested in or are on my radar. On January 7th, Breath of the Dragon by Shannon, Ling, and Fonda come out. This is a YA fantasy and it's inspired by Bruce Lee's fighting style, and I think that's pretty interesting, and I love Fonda. I love the Greenbone Saga. It's one of the best series that I've ever read. Immortal by Lynn Tan. This is by the same author that wrote The Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Both of those covers are stunning, but I still haven't gotten to it yet. But this is a standalone romantasy filled with dangerous secrets, forbidden magic, and passion of a young ruler who fights to protect her kingdom. That's not a 10 out of 10 exciting description. That kind of sounds pretty generic to me, but I do love the cover, and I've heard really great things about her other books, so I do want to check it out. Four Ruined Blades is the next book in the Broken Blades series by Cortland. I've heard very mixed reviews on this. Not everybody is loving it. But the lies are bigger and the plot's more treacherous when your favorite backstabbers return in the mind-blowing sequel to Five Broken Blades. I do love a backstabber though. Not in real life, but in a fantasy book, I love a backstabber. On January 14th, The Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor comes out. This is about an author who is just down on her luck. Things are not going well for her, so she starts writing about AI and sci-fi books, which is not her usual genre, and then these AI things start becoming reality. I think we're going to see a lot of books about AI next year, and I'm intrigued by all of them. They all kind of give me Black Mirror vibes. The Way Up is Death by Dan Hanks. When a mysterious tower appears in the skies over England, 13 strangers are pulled from their lives to stand over it as a countdown begins. Above the doorway is one word: ascend. I love horror books that involve games and a competition of some kind. I love the Saw movies, and they're some of my favorite horror movies of all time, but I don't think that we get a whole lot of books like this. At least I haven't found a whole lot of good ones, so I'm super excited about this one. On January 28th, The Teeth of Dawn by Marina Lostletter comes out. This is the last book in the trilogy of the 5 penalties. But, why would you name a series with a number and then not have that many books in a series? Why would there only be 3 books in a series where the number of the series is 5? That just, grinds my gears. It really bothers me, and it doesn't actually matter, but it does really bother me. This concludes the riveting and mind-ripping epic fantasy trilogy where rebellion struggles to tear the mask off the illusions and enchantments of a society shrouded in layers of mystery. Nice. Dark I Become Loathsome by Larocca. This is a grim yet gentle, horrifying yet hopeful, intense tale of death, trauma, and love. It's about a woman who puts people through a ritual that want to die. I don't know if she them or if she helps them want to live. I'm confused about what the ritual does, but I am intrigued. Blob, a love story by Maggie Su. This is about a woman who, on a drunk escapade, finds this blob and takes it home to take care of it, and then turns it into her boyfriend. This sounds weird and just the kind of book that I love. It sounds like it's going to be really funny. Old Soul by Susan Barker. The woman never goes by the same name. She never stays in the same place too long. She never ages, she never dies, but those around her do. This is kind of a horror thriller that I think is more on the thriller side, but I do have an arc from NetGalley, so it's on my list. Okay, on February 4th, Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fito comes out. This is about a governess, and think governess like Maria from The Sound of Music. That's governess. But this is about an evil governess trying to suppress her, disgusting evil urges. I also feel like dolls are in the top 10 for scary objects that aren't intended to be scary but are super, super freaky. This Ends in Embers by Camilla Cole. I am in my YA fantasy renaissance. For a long time, I thought that YA fantasy was no longer for me. I'm a whole ass adult or whatever, but I've read so much good YA fantasy this year, so I'm excited for this one. This is the second book in a duology. I haven't read the first one yet, but I've heard a lot of good things. It's very female rage-esque. Synopsis says, this astonishing sequel to the best-selling novel So Let Them Burn doesn't hold back. After all, there are no easy endings in war, especially when sisters are forced to fight on opposite sides. I love friends to enemies or allies to enemies. I think that is such a good trope, especially where there's no romance involved. Obviously, if they're sisters, there's not going to be romance, but you get what I mean. And then Listen to Your Sister by Nina Viel. For fans of Jordan Peele films, Stranger Things, and The Other Black Girl, Listen to Your Sister is a laugh-out-loud, deeply terrifying, and big-hearted speculative horror novel from electrifying debut talent Nina Viel. I'm trying to read from more people that don't look like me next year, and also more debut authors, so I'm super intrigued. I also love the idea of a dark comedy thriller in book form. I don't think that I have consumed a lot of those. On the 11th, The Pink Agave Hotel by V. Castro comes out. She also wrote Goddess of Filth, and that was one of my favorite books of this year. But this one is a short horror story collection, and I think they all center around or in the hotel. It's giving me AHS hotel vibes, and I love that. I have Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. This is the third book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I adored Butcher and Blackbird. It's one of the only contemporary romances I can stand. And then Leather and Lark was a bit of a letdown. I enjoyed it, but not nearly as much as Butcher and Blackbird, and that's what I was hoping for. Beta Vulgaris by Margie Sarsfield is about a woman who goes with her boyfriend to work the sugar beet harvesting season in Minnesota, and her boyfriend's not great, and she's just not really having a great time, and then I think the sugar beets start talking to her. This is another one of those weird girl books that I'm very excited for. The Divine Flesh by Drew Huff. I believe that this is indie published, and it sounds like it's so much fun. Jennifer Plummer and the Divine Flesh have exactly 3 things in common. 1, they're trapped inside Jennifer's body. 2, they despise each other. And 3, they're in love with Daryl Plummer, Jennifer's ex-husband. It just sounds so goofy and gory, and I'm very excited about it. And then on the 18th, we got I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm in a Rom-Com by Kimberly Lemming. I think this is part of her whole series, and I don't think that there's a synopsis needed because the title is kind of a synopsis. Cursebound by Sarah L. Reefy. This is the second book in the Faebound series, which I haven't heard great things about, but it is sapphic, and I would like to try it. I think the cover is stunning. This series is about 2 elven sisters who become imprisoned in the Fae world. I don't know what the difference between elves and Fae are, but I guess I'm going to find out. On the 25th, The Dark Mirror by Samantha Shannon comes out. This is the 5th book in the Bone Season series. I have not started the series yet, but I did enjoy Priory of the Orange Tree, and I know she's in the process of rewriting some of the earlier books in the Bone Season, but I don't know where that line is, but I know she's rewritten the first one. Okay, on to March. The River Has Roots by Amal El Motar. This is How You Lose the Time War. It was one of my favorite books from this year, so I am very excited for her solo debut. Follow the river Liss to the small town of Thistleford on the edge of Fairy and meet 2 sisters who cannot be separated, even in death. I've heard the prose of this is just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, as This Is How You Lose the Time War, so I'm extremely excited for it. The way that she writes is one of my favorite things about her writing. The Dream Hotel by Laila Lalami. This is about a woman who gets sent to this government institution because the government has been observing her dreams, and they think that she is going to her husband, so she kind of just gets trapped here. They won't let her out, and it's just about her whole journey. I'm very excited for this one. It's one of my most anticipated books by an author that I haven't read from before. And then we have The Unworthy by Agustina Bazterrica. I love Tender as the Flesh. I think it's one of my favorite horror books of all time. It's one I definitely still think about a lot. And this book also sounds really good. I love the cover. And this is the English translation release too. I think this was already released in Spanish a couple of years ago. This is a thrilling work of literary horror about a woman cloistered in a secretive, violent religious order while outside the world has fallen into chaos. That sounds great. I love me some religious horror. And then we have Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. This is the 3rd book in the Legendborn cycle. I'm not going to read the synopsis because I am just almost done with the first book and I don't want any spoilers, but I am loving this. This is so good. Whoever compared this to Ninth House but like Southern Gothic was so right. On the 11th, we have The Witch Who Trades with Death by C.M. Alongi. I think that the title really covers what the book is about, but I will read the synopsis regardless. A romantic fantasy where a young witch seeks her freedom by forging a deal with death. A young witch forced to play concubine for her empirical captor finally breaks free to find a life of her own, but even those with power to call death cannot outrun their past. I don't know, it just sounds very spooky, and even though it comes out in March, I may save it for the fall time. On the 18th, we have probably one of everybody's most anticipated releases. It's Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is Haymitch's Games. She already has a movie deal for the following year. It's very, very exciting. Haymitch is one of my favorite characters. And then we have Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite. This is a memory called Empire meets Miss Marple in this cozy spaceborne mystery, helmed by a no-nonsense, formidable auntie of a detective. I don't know what Miss Marple is, but I loved A Memory Called Empire, so I am excited about it. On the 25th, there's Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna van Veen. This is set in the 1800s, and it's about 2 twin sisters in the Netherlands. One of them seems to be going crazy, and in order to prevent her from being sent to an insane asylum, the other sister is trying to prove that she is possessed. Also, whatever this style of cover is, I'm loving this style of cover. I think it's so pretty. On April 1st, we have A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. The brilliant detective Anna Delabra may have finally met her match in this gripping sequel to The Tainted Cup from the best-selling author of the Founders trilogy. I love the Founders trilogy. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. I didn't care for the Tainted Cup so much. It was just the narrator's voice that I was kind of over, and the character that I was most interested in. We weren't following her all the time, so that felt really frustrating, but I'm definitely willing to try it again. One of You by Aaron E. Adams. A mysterious outsider torments two Haitian American sisters, forcing them to confront dark secrets from their family's past in this powerful psychological suspense novel from the acclaimed author of Jackal. And I did enjoy Jackal this year, so I will be trying Aaron E. Adams again for sure. I liked her writing. Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake. This is the story of three siblings who, upon the death of their father, are forced to reckon with their long-festering rivalries, dangerous abilities, and the crushing weight of all their unrealized adolescent potential. I also saw this described as Gifted Kid Burnout meets Succession, and I'm really into that. On April 8th, we have Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. This is about a woman who is attracted to planes and wants to consummate her relationship with the plane by dying in a plane crash with the plane that she's in love with. I already started this. I have an arc of it, and it is so funny. It's just such a good time. I'm excited to get to the rest of it. Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes is the newest space horror novel from the author of Dead Silence and Ghost Station. This blends the dystopian dread of Severance with the catastrophic approach to AI from Megan. I'm immediately sold on that comp. I actually enjoyed Megan probably more than most people did. I haven't read Severance yet, but I think that it is so going to be for me. I also haven't read from S.A. Barnes yet, but I've heard that Ghost Station is really good. Don't Sleep with the Dead by Nghi is a companion standalone novella to The Chosen and the Beautiful, her acclaimed reimagining of The Great Gatsby. I personally hated The Great Gatsby, but a queer fantasy reimagining of it does sound like something I'd be into. Last Chance to Save the World by Beth Revis is the third book in her novella series. It is space heist, it's sexy, it's fun. The relationship between her and Ryan remind me a lot of Bones and Booth's relationship for some reason. I'm really enjoying this series. On the 22nd, one of my most anticipated horror releases comes out, When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Nat Cassidy is one of my favorite horror authors of all time. He proves that you can write women as a man and write them in a way that makes them feel seen, and the horror is not how bad he writes women, but it's like actual horror, and he's also writing women. Both of those things can be true. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. That's not a super in-depth synopsis, but I'm still really excited. Everything that I've read by Nat Cassidy so far, I've loved. Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Marie Griffin. This might get the award for best cover that I've seen for next year so far. I love this cover. I think that it's very visceral in just like the best way possible. This is a twisted, tangled story about workplace love affairs and plants with a taste for human flesh. It's about possession and monstrosity and working retail. It is about hunger and desire and other terrible things that grow. On the 29th, Julie Chin is Dead by Lian Zhang. I put this on my TBR initially just because Monica Kim, who wrote The Eyes Are the Best Part, blurbed it, and I love that book. But this book itself also sounds excellent. In this razor-sharp, diabolical debut thriller, a young woman steps into her deceased twin's influencer life only to discover the dark secrets hidden behind her social media facade. Something about it being described as diabolical has me so intrigued. On May 6th, Overgrowth by Mira Grant comes out. This is Annihilation meets a Day of the Triffids in this full-on body horror / alien invasion apocalypse. This is about a little girl who claims to be an alien. She was adopted, and nobody believes her because she's claiming this at like 3, and then the aliens come back. And I think that sounds really horrifying. I think Mira Grant writes such great horror. And then The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I've never read Joe Abercrombie before. He's definitely on my list, but the synopsis really, really intrigued me. I also like the cover. Holy work sometimes requires unholy deeds. Brother Diaz has been summoned to the sacred city where he is certain a commendation and grand holy assignment awaits him. But this new flock is made up of unrepentant murderers, practitioners of ghastly magic, and outright monsters, and the mission he is tasked with will require bloody measures from them all in order to achieve its righteous ends. Horror fantasy is not something that I've really thrust myself into yet, but I think that it's going to be a genre that I really, really enjoy. This might actually be my most anticipated release of next year. The Strength of the Few by James Islington. This is the next book for The Will of the Many, and there's no synopsis for it yet. But I liked The Will of the Many so much. It was so much fun, and I've been thinking about it since I finished it. On May 8th, The Lord of the Demons by Evan Winters comes out. This is the third book in the Burning trilogy. I haven't read the first one yet. I'm not going to read the third book's synopsis. On May 13th, Immaculate Conception by Ling Wang comes out. This is from the author of Natural Beauty, which I love that book. That's one of my favorite weird girl books of all time. This is set in the fiercely competitive art world. It's a novel about an obsessive friendship upended by a cutting-edge technology purported to enhance empathy and connection. A Curse Carved in Bone by Daniel L. Jensen. This is about a shield maiden that fights to break the shackles of prophecy and to overcome the betrayal of the man who broke her heart. In this searing conclusion to the Norse-inspired fantasy romance duology that began with the best-selling A Fate Inked in Blood. I enjoyed A Fate Inked in Blood, but I don't think that it's anything special. I think it's a pretty average romantasy, but it wasn't offensive, so I will be continuing it. On the 20th, The Starving Saints comes out by Caitlin Starling. This is a transfixing, intensely atmospheric fever dream of sapphic medieval horror. I love this cover. I think that I'm not going to read the full synopsis. You can do that. I believe in you. And it sounds so incredible. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, who also wrote One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, which I've been saying that I've been going to read for months and I still haven't yet. But I hope to read that duology before this one comes out. This is a gothic mist-cloaked tale of a prophetess who is forced beyond the safety of her cloister on an impossible quest to defeat the gods with the one knight whose future is beyond her sight. That sounds really intriguing, actually, and I have not been intrigued by romantasies as of late. On the 27th, Never Flinch by Stephen King comes out. When the Buckeye Police Department receives a disturbing letter from a person threatening to kill 13 innocents and 1 guilty in an act of atonement for the needless death of an innocent man, Detective Izzy Janes has no idea what to think. Are 14 citizens about to be slaughtered in an unhinged act of retribution? As the investigation unfolds, Izzy realizes that the letter writer is deadly serious, and she turns to her friend Holly Gibney for help. I love Holly Gibney. Stephen King, super hit or miss author for me, but I love the Mr. Mercedes universe, and Holly is one of my favorite characters of his, and I think that this cover is really great. It's one of his best covers in a while, so I will be picking it up. Okay, we've moved on to June. This is the last month that I'm going over in this video. On June 3rd, I Can Fix Her by Rae Wilde comes out. This is How You Lose the Time War meets Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, in this fast-paced queer horror novel in which an obsessive woman stumbles upon a second chance romance with her flighty paramour, but it quickly deteriorates into a dark spiral of destruction. I love both of those books on their own. I cannot imagine them combined, and I'm extremely excited. Also, Rae Wilde is on TikTok, and she is so funny. June 3rd is also Bindery's next release date. They have 4 books coming out, but I will talk about the one that I am most interested in. And that's The Unmapping by Denise S. Robbins. It's 4 a.m. New York City, a silent disaster. There is no flash of light, no crumbling, no quaking. Each person in New York wakes up on an unfamiliar block after its buildings rearrange their positions overnight. The power grid has snapped, thousands of residents are missing, and the Empire State Building is on Coney Island, for now. The next night, it happens again. That's such an incredible concept. I really hope the book is good. On June 10th, Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab comes out. I'm sure I'm not the one that's bringing you this news, but just know I'm super excited about it. This is Santo Domingo de la Calzada, 1532. London, 1837. Boston, 2019. 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, and one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. This, I'm pretty sure, is Sapphic Vampires, and it's written by V.E. Schwab. I really couldn't come up with anything that I want more from the publishing industry next year, so thank you. On the 17th, Wearing the Lion by John Wiswell comes out. This is by the same author that wrote Someone You Can Build a Nest In. I love that book. I thought it was so funny, so I am hopeful for this one. This second novel from Nebula Award-winning John Wiswell brings a humanizing redemptive touch to the Hercules story in this mythological fantasy for fans of Jennifer Saint and Elodie Harper. I have high hopes, and I like the cover. I think the cover is very cute. Those are all the books on my radar. Let me know what you're most excited for next year.